Hey everybody, I'm Jesse and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks Live. And today, this is our Sunday afternoon edition, 2-hour show we have, and we're gonna get on to some topics, no telling which direction we're gonna go. Just in the beginning, I just wait for people to start showing up, and we have a pretty lively conversation normally. But I'll kick this off. Who is that? Bucky. First one here. Hey Bucky, how's it going? Arnis, GM, what's up? Oliver Rust in the house. Good morning, fellas. Or good afternoon, fellas, rather. Glad to see y'all here. I was just checking stuff out online and stuff. You know, looking at the news and all that, and you know, everything is political now. Have y'all noticed that? I mean, every damn thing that happens is political now. Tripwire, what's up? Glad to see you here from Australia. G'day, mate. Glad to see you here, Trip. Glad you can make it. Muskogee Land, hey. Glad you're here, man. Glad you could make it, Muskogee. Present for the English class, huh? Yeah. I was looking at the whole thing. Everything now is political. You know, we used to have our cultural issues back in the day. You had your cultural issues and your political issues, and now everything is political. It doesn't matter what your feelings are on any damn subject that's political now. We've got, politicians up there pounding the stump for, over everything. And it's crazy now because doing this, making a podcast and stuff, I try to come up with interesting topics of conversation, interesting things to talk about. And I don't want to talk about politics every single day, you know what I mean? But when the politicians have claimed everything and made them political issues to divide us. Hell, just about everything is a political issue now. Everything you talk about is touching on politics or is completely absorbed in by politics. So everything's political now. So I don't want people to think that I'm trying to be hyper political. You know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about what used to be cultural issues. What used to just be talked about between regular people, about our culture and our the way we want to do things, the way we think things should be done. Now all of that shit has been co-opted by the politicians. Chaz, what's up? Loaded and ready, huh, Chaz? Glad to see you here, man. Yeah, but I guess the big stink this week is that Trump is remodeling the White House, and $180 million or something. And I talked about that before, that it was reported that he was spending $180 million remodeling the White House, but they failed in the media. They failed to tell us that it wasn't taxpayer money, that it was privately funded. He was taking donations. What's up, Crypto? Glad to see you here, Crypto Billy. And now, it's gotten out there. It's kind of public knowledge now that it's privately funded. but still, they're crying about it and shit. And I heard the other day that, or this morning or something, that Obama did a remodel back when he was in there, and he did one. It was like $387 million, and that was taxpayer money. That was our money he spent. So yeah, politics divides everybody. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, complete cowardice. Tripwire, you're absolutely right. They won't stand alone on their convictions. They're just bullshit cowards. Yeah. And what was this whole thing with the with that deal where they're, the media, and that's the biggest problem I have with the boomers, is that they're still just locked into this bullshit media, right? The mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, that old school mainstream shit. And that's the greatest thing about Gen X. One of the great things about Gen X, maybe not the greatest, but we were young enough and we saw it all change while we were still young enough to be flexible. And I don't know if we will ever lose that flexibility, if I'm being honest, because a lot of you who come here are open-minded. You're not closed into these little boxes, and we're here to think and to share ideas and to question, above all, to question things, to question everything. And that notion of questioning things is just, the boomers, a certain subset of boomers, let's say, not all of them, but they don't want to hear that shit. They don't want to question anything. They just want to vote Democrat or Republican or whatever way they were told to vote, and that's how it is, and that's the way it's going to be. That's the way the world works, And I think that our ability to step outside that zone, outside that box that society and politics and all that, the ruling powers are trying to put us in, to step outside that and point the finger at anybody, even if we voted for them or whatever, that's wrong. That there is wrong. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care what's going on. We call the bullshit when we see it. Laura Ann, hey. Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for showing up anyway, Laura Ann. Just comment when you can if you're busy. I appreciate you showing up. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think that's like Gen X's superpower, to just be able to call bullshit. I mean, honestly, just that's bullshit. What I don't care. What side of the political aisle you're on. I don't care what religion you are, or any of that, any of those, whatever category that society wants to put you in. If you align in the same categories that they're trying to put me in, I'll still call bullshit on you. If you stray too far outside the lines, of reality and right. What is right? Because we all know, yeah, Bucky, exactly. Being brainwashed is just easier, It's just easier to be in lockstep with whatever bullshit group you want to be in, right? Whether it be Republican, Democrat, left, right, woke, conservative, whatever. You just stay in your group. But I just a lot of that stuff throughout my life, I have really just tended to use common sense. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at some of the things that have been progressive or liberal throughout my lifetime. Gay marriage. What do I care? Why? How does that affect me? Why would I give a shit if two dudes over there in California want to get hitched? Why should I care? What? That does not affect me in any way. I don't care. You know what I mean? Now, but if I have certain religious beliefs and then they want me to make a cake to celebrate that, which is against my religion, now that's wrong. I just, do I think that that the whole thing is right or wrong or whatever? No, but forcing someone to do something they don't want to do is just wrong. You know what I mean? I don't care. If you care that gays get married, care that gays get married. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you do care. I don't give a shit about any of it. So what the hell? Why would I waste my time? So my point in all that is that I do have some what would be called liberal beliefs or progressive beliefs, just because I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what other people do, as long as they leave me the hell alone, and I can leave them the hell alone. Just that's fine with me. You know what I mean? I think that more people need that. That caring attitude about getting in other people's business and trying to make them conform. That is the true problem. Not what the hell they're doing or whatever they're doing. As long as they're not hurting anybody else, who cares? Who gives a shit? And I think that peeling apples, yeah, sounds good already. Whatever you're making, yeah, you if apples is the main ingredient, I'm down. But I think that's where the boomers make a mistake. They won't open up their minds and broaden their horizons a little bit and just use some common sense and say, leave people alone. Let them do what they want to do, as long as they're not harming anyone else. So and that somehow that has gone trickled down to the younger generations. Yeah, so much of our time is devoted to bullshit, Trip. I mean, they fought that. People fought that. The boomers, not so much us. Now they're wanting to do this whole trans thing, and again, there's common sense. There's a common sense medium ground there where an adult should be able to do whatever the hell they want. And if they want to go get surgery or take some hormones or whatever and become the opposite sex, try to pretend to be or whatever it is, then go ahead, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But when you want to force that shit on children who aren't able to consent, now you're going outside of common sense. You're making someone do something they don't want to do. You're enforcing your moral guidelines upon someone else. And that's exactly what it is when the person is too young to be able to consent. All right? They don't know what they want because they're children. So, and to see that kind of shit happen is just outside the lines of common sense. And nobody can convince me otherwise, because everyone should just have the right to live their lives how they want, as long as they don't hurt anyone else. As long, you can't take someone else's property and say you're living your life the way you want. Now, you can't take a little 5-year-old kid to a doctor and have his sex changed and say that he's living the way he wants. He doesn't know how he wants to live yet. he's not even old enough to get a tattoo yet, or to, decide what he wants to major in college. He has no clue about any of this stuff. Just agree and they will buy you stuff. Muskogee land. A Mexican trans bot harness. Yeah. Well, sometimes, and that's another great thing about Generation X. We don't get offended too much, And as you can imagine, people say stuff to me all the time, trying to be offensive, And it's really, I've had so much worse said to me as a kid and as a young man in the Army. You know what I mean? So the kind of stuff that they throw at me, it's really laughable, here on in the YouTube comments and stuff. It's difficult for me to take it seriously. Trip identifies as a donut. The world can bite me. Yeah. Yeah, no, Oliver, yeah, that's just insane. And you see these dudes up there in Daisy Duke shorts twerking for kindergartners and shit. Dude, that it's just wrong. And everybody knows it's wrong. Even the people that support it know it's wrong, but they're supporting it anyway. You know what I'm saying? They support that shit anyway. Yeah, Crusader. What's up, Crusader? Glad you could be here, man. Yeah, make rotary phones great again. Yeah. Yeah, old school shit. How many of y'all got your little 5-year-old or 6-year-old fingers caught in one of these things? Yeah, that shit hurt. Okay. Yeah, I got a thing saying that the video was buffering a couple minutes ago. I was hoping it ironed itself out. But yeah, all of this stuff and these things that we're talking about now, these are examples of things that should not be political. Okay, these should not be political topics. Our politicians should not be up there stumping for this shit, for this trans movement. This is a thing that should be handled within the community by us. Okay, this should be fought out in school boardrooms and shit, and at parent-teacher conferences and this kind of thing, right? And now it's going to be the future's looking even bleaker as far as I'm concerned, because okay, Arna said that bouncing out and coming back fixed the issue. Okay. Yeah, you'd have to start over. Hey, Underground, what's up, man? Yeah, if you missed, if your finger slipped, you'd have to start all over. Yeah, I hated that shit. Yeah, moving to Santa Fe next week. Well, I hope you have a good time, dude. Yeah, but all this stuff with that we can really, I think, expect big changes due to AI from this shit. I mean, AI is going to be coming out of nowhere doing shit. Teachers are going to be replaced with AI here within the next, I don't know how many years. All of the computer programmers. I heard that I don't know if y'all heard about the Amazon crash, because their servers crashed and shut down a bunch of stuff. But that happened just a couple days after they got rid of all of their human programmers, not all, however many. They got rid of human programmers and let AI take over. All right, and AI, it doesn't have the the thought pattern to say, okay, maybe this might work, might not work. I'm just going to leave it alone for right now. You know what I mean? I'll just skip over that. It's wrong, but don't fix what ain't broken type of shit. Where a human would do that, just bypass something that, no, so Amazon's AI just went in and deleted all that shit. So now, I don't know whether that caused the crash, but supposedly that thing happened, that Amazon put AI in charge of all that stuff and got rid of a bunch of programmers. Yeah. And I was thinking about that, and I can definitely see people, right? Because they're going to start putting this AI in toys. All right. So you're going to be able to buy your kid a teddy bear and basically, have it raise the kid. The kid will be able to talk to it, and it'll be the kid like that movie Ted. Wasn't it Ted? Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I can see that happening, because especially with these younger parents, they're so involved with social media and all this other shit, and they're not going to have time for their kids, and they're just going to have an AI bot. It basically, it'll just send a notification to their phone or something, when the kid's hungry or whatever. They'll get notifications when the kid won't behave or something. They'll have to put their phone down and go in there. But, most of the day, the kid will just interact with this AI bot, this toy, and the parent will be able to neglect the child in a more a more morally acceptable way, not like our parents did to us back in the day, where they just kicked us outside and go be free. You just don't come back until you're either something's broken or it's dinner time. Oh yeah, I'm not into all that. I mean, I'm one of those people, crusader. I like technology, I think I said this here recently before, but I like technology, the physical hardware. All this software shit they're coming out with now, I'm not into that shit. You know what I'm saying? The newer software with the AI and the control and facial recognition and all this shit. They didn't, an engineer did not design facial recognition out of metals and silicon and shit. No, it was some geek, typing code and stuff. So not saying that engineers aren't geeks too or something, but all of this, what they call technology, and all it is code, and it only exists online in the ether. It's not real. You can't touch it. You can't hold it. You can't hear it. It's just code in the ether. It's ones and zeros. So that kind of technology, no, I think that shit is dangerous. Now, I've talked before about the AI being embedded in drones and shit. Soldiers are going to be unnecessary here in the next couple of decades, because they'll just be flying AI drones. They'll have AI driven tanks. Everything will just be AI, and you don't have to worry about some pesty meat bot soldier, who will disobey a command when you have AI to run that shit. Hey, the AI will fire them tank rounds wherever you want, as soon as you want, as many as you want, at whoever you want. They don't care. Same with the drones and shit. AI doesn't care. They just do what they're told. So, that kind of stuff is coming down the pipe. And oh yeah, Crusader, yeah, I've got the same mentality. I like I like all the gadgets and shit, don't get me wrong. Kind of a geek in that way. But if I had my choice, yeah, we go back to 1700s. Yeah, in a heartbeat. We'd have, muzzle loaders and muskets and shit. Yeah, I don't know. Probably not. Probably everything post Industrial Revolution. You know what I mean? Crusader asks, when we die out, will any evidence be left on Earth that we were here? And I would say no. Everything will vanish. Aliens or people or whatever will go sifting through the rubble, and they'll find shit from ancient Rome and and that kind of stuff. They'll find those ancient stone carvings and stuff, and they won't find keyboards and shit. That shit'll be dust. Everything, even our largest concrete structures will vanish into dust. The weather and the time will decay that shit in a matter of just a couple thousand years. Will be like, it'll be like we were never here. Yeah, and I've actually had Oliver Rust says Alexa spies, and I've actually had that conversation with people and argued with people on Reddit and shit years ago when it was first coming out, and they were saying, "Oh, Alexa doesn't copy your voice, they don't record your voice or anything." I said, and I explained to them, you don't understand how computers work then. It's a computer. It must record everything you say, literally everything. Every sound it picks up, it must record so it can check against the word Alexa. And once it'll get a hit or a miss. It either matches the word Alexa or it does not. But it writes it into RAM at the very least. It's got to record it. Every single sound it hears. Okay? And that's just a fact based on the way computers work. That's not me, making shit up or anything like that. That's just basic physics on how computers work. Alexa, a computer cannot just ignore everything except the word Alexa and then grab onto, you know what I mean? It can't do that. It must check everything versus the word Alexa and get a 1 or a 0. It matches or it doesn't. So it must write it into memory. And I argue with people over that shit. But Metal Gear, what's up, dude? Yeah. Generation, day by day control. Tripwire, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the 30s. Loran, yeah. A lot of those previous decades, some of them were really awesome. The Roaring '20s and all that, there's something to be said about the advent of the Industrial Revolution and technology and all that stuff. It's just, it should have given us a lot more freedom, a lot more spare time to delve into whatever we wanted. We should be more spiritual if we want, or more learned. We should, be vastly more intelligent than we are. Vastly more closer to the earth and closer to God, or whatever you want to say. Be spiritual in that way. We should have time to spend to these pursuits, right? But we don't. We are becoming stupider as a human race. We are becoming stupider. We have less time to devote to these things because all these companies are pulling our attention to, Facebook and Instagram and all this just completely absurd, meaningless bullshit, right? Now, in 2,000 years from now, or whatever, or 30 minutes after your brainwaves go flat, 30 milliseconds after your brainwaves go flat, how much do you think it mattered how many likes your Instagram post got? You know what I mean? Will that matter at all? Or do you think that will be the only thing that matters? How many likes your Instagram post got or whatever. It's just meaningless, man. And Jeff 7, what's up, dude? Yeah, Crusader. Yeah, make America smart. Make Western civilization smart again. We all need a dose of common sense and education. When I look at the facts, because when I was in school in the 70s, we were number one in education. We were the smartest country on the planet. I think Japan was number 2. You know what I'm saying? We were neck and neck with Japan for just, the highest education system on the planet. And then the government, the federal government took over our education system, and we've been on a downhill trajectory since then. Now you literally do not have to read. You do not have to be able to read the English language to graduate high school in the state of Oregon. You do not have to be able to add 2 plus 2. None of that. You can just go in there and speak gibberish. Don't say anything. Just be completely unresponsive. All you have to do is show up so that they can check you off and get that federal paycheck. That is the only requirement. Oh, okay, yeah, Jeff. Yeah, that's awesome. Last grass cut of the year. That's always something to look forward to. Oh, yeah, Lauren. Yeah, we should be this should literally be a golden age. We should be in a golden age right now. We should have philosophers and, just like Lauren says, writers and artists and inventors just all over the place. What do we have? We've got OnlyFans and Pornhub and all this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Facebook and dank memes and this kind of shit. And don't get me wrong, I see a meme and it's funny. I'll laugh just like anybody else. I'm not a complete idiot, social derelict or whatever. I'll laugh at a meme. But still, I can laugh at a meme and still know that it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. Yeah, and to see the opportunities that are being wasted by our government, wasted by big institutions, big pharma, big corporations, and instead of turning this into a golden age, they're turning it into a dark age, an age of greed, corruption, deceit. And we're living in the middle of it right now. Yeah, we are devolving. Exactly, Lauren. Yeah, Crusader. Where are the flying cars? We could have had them. We could have had them years ago, but we didn't. There's so many things we could have had. We could have had cars that run on hydrogen. We could have had electric cars. They had electric cars in the late early 1900s. They had electric cars, right? They had all this stuff. You know how far they could have come with electric cars if they would have taken that technology and pushed it forward into the future? Where we would be with electric cars by now? Where we would be with solar technology if when they first figured that out, if they would have stuck with that, but they've kept us chained to the gas pumps. They kept us chained to the gas pumps, telling us that fuel was finite, that there's not enough to go around, so we've got to pay more for it because there's a shortage of oil on the planet. Which now I'm hearing more and more that it's not even actually fossil fuel. It's just something that happens between the molten core of the earth and the mantle, and it's just produced between those things, and it comes up in cracks and fills voids in the earth's crust. And that, that's as plausible as it being dinosaurs to me. What the hell? That doesn't make sense now. But we take things for granted, even though they don't really make sense. They're fossil fuels, and they were supposed to be dinosaurs and shit. Does that make sense? I've never given it too much thought. But meat rots. You know what I mean? Why isn't that? Why aren't we seeing fossil fuels being made from other stuff like the woolly mammoths in the last ice age? Why is it only from way back when, a million years ago? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, Crusader. It would have been a game changer. Yeah. Yeah, Laura Ann. Yeah, I believe that 95, and that's just because a lot of us are still alive. If they just took that from the age of 30 down, it would be a lot lower than that. Flying cop cars, yeah, Crusader. Yeah, Ford had electric cars 100 years ago, and we don't grow up learning that, right? They don't teach us that shit. All the stuff, even back when the education was good, back when we were kids, they still didn't teach us meaningful stuff. They didn't teach us real shit. I didn't know that the Federal Reserve was private until I was probably in my 30s. There's a lot of stuff. I didn't know that we had electric cars back then until probably within the last 15 years, 10 years, something like that. I just learned that stuff. So we're constantly learning, and the more we learn how full of shit the institutions are that are supposed to be teaching us. The government, the education system, and all this, they are full of shit. And then they wonder why we're skeptical. Why am I skeptical? Well, we've been being run and controlled as a country by a privately owned bank for over 100 years now, and no politician, no institution has told me that. I had to find that shit out online from somebody like myself who decided to post it and let everybody know, tried to educate people, right? Just some person. It wasn't no, every institution, they won't come out and tell you that, that's privately owned. So all the stuff they hide from us, and then they wonder why we're skeptical, why we question shit. A Ford steam car, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, but so much technology. 1980, what's up? Oh, okay, that's cool. Glad to hear it. Glad you can make it. 1980. Yeah, and all the stuff all the technology that's been suppressed. All right, I guarantee you that you and I, don't know the millionth part of that. how much technology they have just squashed by big oil companies and big food companies and all these big companies that will just crush these technologies that would actually help you and me, that would actually make our dollar go farther, that would enrich our lives for the sake of their profits. And the disgusting part is that they don't need more profits. They just want them, right? It's not like they're, if they don't make 0.03 more profit margin next year, they're going to get their lights turned off. That's not the case. Their kids aren't gonna eat next month if they don't increase their profits. No, they're still gonna live in their mansion. Their kids are still gonna go to their private school. They've got enough money to live rich for 1,000 lifetimes, but they do it anyway. It's just unadulterated greed. And that's the worst part, in my opinion, that it could be, but they just don't want it to be. We could have all these wonderful technologies. We could have leisure time to pursue the things that we find interesting and the things we love, but we don't. And just because Microsoft's stock has to go up another 0.3% this quarter, and that's the reason. That's the reason we're working our asses off in 9-to-5 jobs, 50, 60 hours a week, because Apple's got to have an increase in profits. Their profits can't stagnate. They've got to increase. And when you really think about that, they're making whatever, $150 billion a year, and that's not enough next year. That's just not enough. I mean, point blank, and they'll tell you straight up, that's not enough for next year. We got to increase those profits. How can we increase those profits? So it's not like that's a big conspiracy theory or something. That's just point blank the way the world works. Yeah, you do saying I didn't have your mom's handwriting, Chaz? Yeah. Yeah, those fast food restaurants, that's another thing. That shit, I actually watched a documentary about the McDonald's and how they do their hamburgers and shit. And the guy, I forget, he was some kind of scientist, biological scientist or whatever. And he said that, technically that burger patty is not actually meat. It's a meat-like slurry that they freeze in that shape, and then they put it frozen on the thing, and it cooks it. When it cooks, it solidifies. It's not actually meat like we think of meat. Yeah. Yeah, the Voyager probes are still flying, yep. Yeah, you're right. I like to keep up with them once in a while. I run across that stuff. And yeah, and the old refrigerators ran forever, that old stuff, and all they had to do was improve it, right? They could have improved upon that stuff and saved us money. But they didn't want to do that. They wanted to make it cheaper and bilk us for more of our money. Because can you, I don't know if I can, but I can't imagine having a wife and living without a refrigerator. I can imagine myself living in a log cabin in the woods pretty easily. But in today's society, people view a refrigerator as an absolute necessity, right? You got to have a refrigerator. If yours breaks, you got to either fix it. You have to. There's no option there. You have to fix it or buy another one. And when you call somebody and the guy says, it's it's going to be, you know, $600 to fix it, and you can get another one for $700, you know, well, you're going to go ahead and finance another one, or $1,000 or whatever, you know, and you go ahead and you finance another one, and then the financer gets his cut, because you're going to end up paying $2,000 for it probably over the long haul. So yeah, that all of that is by design. That planned obsolescence, all this cheap shit they're selling us, it's absolute garbage, and it's by design. It's made to bilk us, made to make sure that we transfer our wealth to them. You know what I'm saying? We're basically, I know it's like a cliche now, but we're basically like cattle or something now, right? To these big corporations. I mean, think about it. They just vaccinate us when they want. Oh, you don't want to get a vaccine? Well, you won't work then. You won't eat. So, you know, that's basically where we're at. You know what I'm saying? And if people don't start changing in our minds and stop funding this shit, screw votes and all that shit, all that, people want to fight and argue over politics because they've got us fighting and arguing over politics. They've got us divided over trans rights and cisgender and abortions and deportations and shit. You know what I'm saying? They've got us fighting over all this shit, and none of that shit that stuff should be down at the bottom of our consciousness. What should be at the top of our consciousness, in my humble opinion, is voting with our dollar. Where the hell are we spending our dollar? That's the most important thing, because that is the vote that counts. And the whole Budweiser thing proves that. That's proof right there. You don't support a company, they fall apart. Now, they've got it set up where Anheuser-Busch owns Budweiser and Michelob Ultra. So, you know, so they just switch all that marketing revenue over to Michelob Ultra and give you a new beer. Where Anheuser-Busch is still up there just raking in the money. They don't give a shit. That didn't faze them at all. Oh, you don't want Bud Light? Oh, we got a new one for you. You know, so we gotta be a little more conscientious about where we spend our money, and I think that will have a lot more impact on society than, you know, casting a ballot at some federal election. Now, elections closer to home, that's a different story. I think that, you know, we should get better people in there who actually give a shit, if that's possible. At least it's worth a shot, maybe. A blue meat boar? Huh. Never heard of that before. Be happy skydive. Cheers, yeah. Yeah. But the same thing, another example of that was that thing with, what was that, Cracker Barrel recently, right? People rebelled against that shit, and Cracker Barrel changed their direction. They corrected before they went all in and made that mistake, right? So, yeah, we have the power, because if they're basically like vampires siphoning our money, number one, and our time, our attention, because they get those advertising dollars from, but it's all wrapped up in money, which is time, which is just, you know, little pieces of our lives that we're given to them, because we spend our time, no matter, in one way or another, you spend your time to get that money. And and they're basically like monetary vampires, just sucking us dry. But they're sucking our money, but also our lives, right? They're sucking our time, taking our time, no matter which way you look at it. And without us, then they have nothing. They have no power. They have nothing. And it doesn't take a lot. All you got to do is pay attention where you're spending your money, and support good companies. Yeah, right. Metal Gear, Coors, Stroh's, and Youngling. Youngling's another one. Youngling, I don't know about Coors or Stroh's, but Youngling is a family owned and operated thing now, as of my last Blue Meat Boars. Huh. I've never heard of those before, Crusader. Make Gen Z parachutes with directions in cursive. Yeah. Yeah. The white barn candles from Bath and Body Works. Yeah. 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 And just looking at it's one thing to be stupid, I mean, honestly, that's right. You kind of feel sorry for stupid people. Damn, that dude's dumb as hell. Whatever. We all had one friend that was dumb as a rock. Dumb as a bag of hammers. But we've got generations of young people coming up who are stupid, but they're proud of their stupidity. They actually have pride in that, right? You're using big words, and they look down on that. If you use not big words like to us, just normal words to us, and they look down on that. Like they're better than that. They think they're better because they don't use real actual English words, and that's messed up in a lot of ways. When you have a word is being added to the dictionary because enough stupid people are using it, all right, that's a sign of the downfall of society, in my opinion. Raziel, what's up? Now, and I'm not talking about just slang. We had our slang, and every generation before us had their slang, groovy and all that stuff, and we had our slang. That shit was bogus. That shit was gnarly or whatever, and kids have their slang, and that's cool. But when you have grown-ups, adults, just too ignorant and too stupid. I don't. Ignorant's the wrong word, because I'm ignorant about a lot of stuff. I'm the most ignorant person I know. I'm learning stuff every day from y'all. So just too stupid to realize, that they're using the word incorrectly, and everybody just keeps using it incorrectly. So then they just redefine it in the dictionary to follow, to match what all these idiots are saying. And I have many examples of that. You know what I mean? Homophobia. There's a good one. Homophobia, right? You'd think homophobia would mean that you're have an illogical fear of homosexuals, but that's not what it means anymore, because stupid people don't know what phobia means. It's crazy. Crab Man, what's up? Yeah. Yeah. Crusader. Yeah. Everyone says maroon when they should be saying moron. Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. Gay. Yeah. Arnis. Now gay. I was what the when the Fred Flintstone, the Flintstones theme song. When you're with the Flintstones, you'll have a yabba-doo time, a dabba-doo time. You'll have a gay old time. Remember that? That's what the word gay means. Happy. But somehow it got turned into, homosexual. And so now, and a lot of other words, but when you change it in the dictionary from slang, when it's slang and it's used that way, and you change it in the dictionary just because a bunch of people are using it that way. And I remember the first word that I ran across was humongous, right? Because I looked it up. All right, what humongous? I want to know how to spell it or something, and it wasn't in the dictionary, wasn't it? Well, shit, that's not even a word. That's just some shit some people made up. But then later on in life, in my 30s or whatever, I just happened to stumble across it, looking up another word, and I saw right there below it was humongous. Like, hell, they put it in the dictionary. They put that dumb shit in the dictionary. You know what I'm saying? A word that I used to say as a kid, as an ignorant kid, that I didn't realize was even a word, that wasn't a word back then. Now they just, so what is the language if they're just changing it willy-nilly because a bunch of dumbass kids are saying it? It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old codger. Yeah, 19. Slang should stay in current movies, music, and magazines. But yeah, you shouldn't change words in the dictionary just because it's being said. And I've got such a bone to pick with older people, fully grown adults, middle-aged people who adopt the new slang, like, trying to talk like the kids and shit. I don't remember adults doing that when I was a kid. I don't remember, 45-year-old men run around saying gnarly dude and all that shit. You're so extreme, Jesse. That was gnarly, dude. Keep it up. They did not say that shit back then. But now, people are doing that. Old people our age are doing that shit. Our age and older, And my pet peeve is it hits different. It hits different. My wife likes to show me whenever she finds some old person or older, a Gen Xer saying that shit online. She'll make me, she'll show me the video or the meme or whatever it is. And a Gen Xer saying it hits different. That shit irritates the hell out of me. No, I'm not trying to hack on you if you say that shit, but that shit just irritates me. It's one of my pet peeves. Oh yeah, dude. Crap, man. Yeah, it's painful to go to restaurants. They have Gen Z working in these places, and they say the most idiotic shit. Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree, dude. Yeah, well, okay, now, Crusader, they have, on the internet, they have what's called the Urban Dictionary, which you're probably familiar with already. I'm not educating you probably, but they have the Urban Dictionary. So you can go look up the slang and stuff, right? And that is a rotating thing, they just whatever, it's a cool thing, it's a hip thing, or whatever. That's where that shit belongs, in the Urban Dictionary, not in the English Webster's Collegiate Dictionary or whatever, not in real language. So, yeet, I don't even know what that means, Arnis. I heard it. I've heard that phrase before, but I don't know what it means. You have to hit me to that. Yeah. Yeah, Raziel. Yeah, I mean, to learn what the hell they're talking about, to figure out what the hell they're talking about. Yeah, I've looked that shit up on the Urban Dictionary a lot of times. You know, that's how I know that thing exists, because I've looked shit up on there, try to figure out what the hell is being said if I run across some shit online. And I've looked up a few terms. I can't remember any of them, but when I run across them, I kind of know what they mean now. But to use them regularly, you know, and y'all watch my videos, you know I don't say that dumb shit. Gotta glaze that Riz. What the hell? Zombie. You use yeet sometimes? I don't know what that means, so I can't use it. Not intelligently. Sully, what's up? Well, if you agree with any part of what I'm saying, or any stuff you see in the comments, you're probably Gen X, Sully. I don't care what year you were born. Yeah, and it's not like I'm hacking on slang. Like I said earlier, I'm not trying to say that kids shouldn't use slang. They should use slang. Shit, we did. The kids should use slang. But adults should not put that shit in the dictionary. You know what I'm saying? Just, I don't know if I'm making any sense. We should not just adopt it into our official language because kids are saying some dumb shit. Yeah, actual English words. Yeah, Crusader. You don't want to know what they're talking about? Yeah, Sully, if you're not Gen X, we'll adopt you. Just like Tripwire says. Gen X isn't a closed-in box. We're open. As long as you can think for yourself and learn how to question shit. No, we're not judgmental. This is an open group. Yeah. And you'd be surprised how many people born in the early 60s and the early 80s more identify as Gen Xers. You know what I'm saying? And every time they ask me about that, I say the same thing. Well, Gen X is a mindset. It's not, it's not some date on a calendar. It's some dipshit in a boardroom, put down. They can't put us in a box. Yeah, that's a good guideline. It is. The calendar's a good guideline. But to say, oh, you were born on January 1st, 1981. You're not Gen X. That's not us. We're not gonna pull that shit. So, if you think of yourself as Gen X, then you're Gen X, in my opinion. Yeah, crap, man. That's just walk away. Yeah, that's a good way to handle it. Olive Garden, yeah, Muskogee Land. I make my own. I like making my own salads and I make my own bread. So yeah, I'm down with that. I love a good damn salad. Nice hot slice of bread. Yeah, 19. Yeah, kids should use slang. Yeah, that's awesome. That Gen Alpha or whatever. That shit, you think Gen Z is weird. You should hear that Gen Alpha shit. All that toilet clicks and whistles and shit. All that weird shit. They're almost speaking another language completely. So that it's just getting worse. But they should have the right to speak slang, talk their slang shit and But a lot of times in today's society where they don't get taught the English language, all the English language they know, they learned online playing computer games and shit. You know what I mean? They can't spell because it's all, you know, abbreviations and shit. How do you spell laughing? LOL. You know what I'm saying? Literally, that's the kind of answer you'll get. LOL. No. You know, I mean, and we can't really blame them. Yeah, we can call them, you know, we can call them stupid because they're stupid, but we can't blame them for being stupid when it was the federal government that took over the education system and destroyed it. You know what I mean? I mean, if I'm sitting there going through the rubble of my burned house, and because somebody, you know, threw a Molotov cocktail through my window, you can sit there and say, "Hey, dude, you got ashes on your jeans." You know what I mean? And that's absolutely true. You got ashes on your jeans, but you can't blame me for burning my house down. Somebody threw a Molotov cocktail through my window. So there's I do have dirty jeans. Yeah, you got me right there. But I don't take all of the responsibility for having dirty jeans when somebody else burnt my shit down. Now, somebody else burnt their education system down. They didn't do it. You know, in kindergarten, they weren't marching the damn streets, you know, demanding that we destroy their education system. It was the adults that did that shit. Oh yeah, crab man. Yeah. That does sound good. Yeah, Raziel. Yeah. That slang is always changing anyway. God's Warrior, what's up, dude? Welcome to the party. Glad to see you here, man. Yeah, our whole Playboys and penthouses could be medical journals. I didn't know y'all had penthouse over there in Australia. Yeah, that's cool though. I figured y'all would have a different one over there though. Street pharmacist. Yeah, Oliver. Yeah, glad to see you here, God's Warrior. Glad you could make it. But like I said, the analogy with the dirty jeans and shit, the kids are stupid. I mean, what, you know, that's not being mean to point out a simple fact. You know, they're getting stupider by the generation. Gen Z is stupider than the millennials. Gen Alpha is stupider than Gen Z. And so Gen Alpha's kids are, you know, they're going to be raised by AI. They're not going to know how to spell a damn thing. They're going to know how to speak because AI is going to do everything for them. You know, they're not even going to have to type out LOL on their phone. They're just going to say it. So they're not going to know anything about the written language. Not even as much as the, you know, these kids today with all the LOL and all that shit and whatever else other kind of things. So yeah, we studied anatomy in the dirty mags, Crusader. Yeah. Mike Fleisner, my boy, what's up? What's up, man? Yeah, oh yeah. I got a story for y'all. It was this morning, actually. Quick story. Somebody said something about cartoons, and it reminded me because I like watching Bugs Bunny and stuff in the morning. Hey, sue me. I watch that shit. I watch Looney Tunes in the mornings, and this morning I was watching one. I found one. It was the Halloween, you know, the Halloween little different cuts from Halloween episodes of Looney Tunes, you know, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, or whatever. But this one had, it was like a podcast or some kind of, it had a host anyway, just a normal dude. I've never seen him before, ever in my life, just some normal ass dude. But I started playing the damn thing, and the guy, was talking about the clip, the Bugs Bunny clip that was coming up, and he was like, oh, it's spooky and all this shit, and just over the top with everything, how scary and spooky it was gonna be. And I'm sitting there looking at that shit, and I'm like, damn, this is the type of personality, that gets in front of a camera that I don't want to emulate. This is not what I want to be, sitting there overdoing everything and trying to, hit that like button and mash that whatever and ding that bell or all that bullshit. I just don't want to be that, right? So I mentioned it to my wife. I said, look at this clown, this stupid ass. This is why I don't do that kind of shit. See how stupid this guy looks? This guy just irritating the shit out of me, Why can't he just be real? Get up there and say, hey, this is a Bugs Bunny show coming up. It's awesome or whatever. And he wasn't Gen X. He was younger. But anyway. But my wife looks at me and she says, honey, she says, this is a cartoon. It's made for kids. He's talking to kids. I was like... Oh, yeah, maybe you're right. so yeah, maybe he's doing all that shit because he thinks he's talking to a 6-year-old. He doesn't know he's talking to a 54-year-old who's judging his ass. Shit, yeah. But I just thought that was funny as hell. Y'all might not laugh as much as I did it myself, but that shit was funny. To me, anyway. Oh, Marvin the Martian, yeah. Yeah, he was one of my favorites. Yeah, zombie. Like I said, I'm young at heart, dude. I'm like a big kid, I've got my what is that? Your wallpaper on your computer, it's always Silver Surfer or something like that. I saw a Thor, big ass cool Thor action figure. That shit was $50 something though. I was like, hell no, I can't afford that shit. Being two cults at once, Raziel. Yeah, I need to get a lot of those cartoons in my DVD stack, so I can watch them anytime I want without worrying about whether they're whatever streaming service is going to take them down. He-Man's better than Thor. Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Crusader. But as long as we both understand that Silver Surfer beat both their asses together, you know what I mean? Yeah, Lord of the Flies. Yeah, God's Warrior, exactly. Yeah, we did. That sounds, I don't know, messed up or whatever, but we did. In a lot of ways, we raised each other. Yeah, me and my friends raised each other. So, and I'm sure a lot of you did. And me and my brothers and sisters, we raised each other. We taught each other the facts of life and stuff that we didn't have parents around to do that. So, oh yeah. Foghorn Leghorn, he's one of my favorites today. The way he does that dog. Come here, boy. Yeah, he'll Foghorn Leghorn to get right to the end of that dog's leash and then hit him with a bat and shit. And then him and that little chicken hawk. That's a chicken hawk. I say, boy. And then the little nerdy chicken, because he was after that. Foghorn was after that widow that widow hen, and she had her son was a little nerd. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Metal Gear, Saturday morning cartoons were our babysitters. Thundercats. Old man, what's up, old man? Glad to see you here. Yeah. But Thundar the Barbarian was my favorite cartoon. Probably, I have to say, yeah. Thundar the Barbarian was my favorite cartoon growing up. Dungeons and Dragons, Bobby the Barbarian. He was that cartoon was probably a close second. But yeah. That hen was a Karen. Yeah, Lauren. Something wrong with that boy. Yeah. Yeah. Pole position. Mighty Orbots. Yeah, we had so many great ones. But I want to get the whole two of my bucket list purchases when I get the money one day. I want to get the whole Thundar the Barbarian, all the seasons of Thundar the Barbarian on DVD, and Johnny Quest, all the Johnny Quest seasons on DVD. That would be awesome. I used to love Johnny. I was watching Johnny Quest in the Army because it came on. It just happened to come on right after I got back from PT. So I put Johnny Quest on and watch Johnny Quest, jump out of the shower and watch Johnny Quest until I had to go to formation. Yeah, the early G.I. Joe cartoon. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Crab Man. That was kick-ass too. Yeah, Megatron used to be a pistol. Yep. Now he's a tank. Why would they change that? Oh, because of the gun, the whole, but it's, like a gun is more dangerous than a tank or some shit. Oh, he couldn't be a gun though. You know what I mean? He couldn't be a pistol anymore. That shit. You know what? You know what I'm saying? And you know why they wouldn't let him be a pistol anymore? Because of all the Karens. So here's a question for you. All right, we grew up with the most inappropriate, violent media. All right, we had guns over. Hell, Megatron transformed into a gun. One of the main characters was a gun. They used guns in Looney Tunes. They used guns all over our cartoons. They just all kinds of violence and destruction in all of our TV shows, all of our cartoons and all that stuff. Video games, everything was violent and destructive in there. Okay. And nowadays, there can't be a gun in a cartoon. They can't have any violence and all this stuff. All right. So, why is it that whenever somebody does a shooting, it's never a Gen Xer? It's always some old boomer or some young kid. That whole unnecessary, meaningless, crazy, violent thing is never a Gen Xer. Never. Why is that? If that kind of shit is so bad for you, and so, we've got to protect people from looking at a fake toy cartoon gun that but whatever reason, I don't know what reason they give for it, but it's just out of fashion is the actual real reason. Yeah, we had so many beautiful freedoms in our youth. Yeah. Hell yeah. Chaz, me too. AF, what's up, AF? Oh, she's a beast mode, Karen. Yeah, Dragon's Lair. I love that video game. So now, back when I was a kid, all right, they had those old ladies that were that now we didn't call them Karens back then, but the old, nosy old ladies, and they would be looking out their window and twitching their curtains, looking at what you rowdy kids are doing outside and shit. And they were funny. They were just funny, maybe she'd come out, and if you got in her yard or something, she'd bring her broom out and chase you out of her yard with her broom or something. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't call the cops. They didn't, try to destroy your life and all this shit. So that old school Karen was actually, it was just it was just a thing. It was just a thing us kids had to deal with. It wasn't a big deal. Nosy old grandma, and she, grouchy, and it was just funny. I remember. It was just funny. Oh, Mrs. Peterson, she's looking at us. We better get out of here, and pedal off on our bikes before she comes out here, starts yelling at us. So, whatever. But now they even had to take that shit too far. And now they're calling 911 and swatting people and shit and all this bullshit. Everything just gets worse. Everything, even Karenism, is gotten worse to the point where it's ridiculous. Oh my goodness, Raziel. Nephew got kicked out of grade school for making a piece of toast sort of look like a gun and pretending to shoot it. So I'm gonna guess that I don't know you, personally, or your nephew, but I'm going to guess that your nephew is not like the Leonardo da Vinci of toast. Like this wasn't like the Mona Lisa of toast guns, just hyper realistic and shit. It was just kind of more of a boomerang probably. And he got kicked out of grade school. That's the kind of bullshit world we live in. Rusty Doob, my boy, what's up? Yeah, exactly. The most militarized. We grew up on post-apocalyptic, and a lot of us, even those who didn't spend time in the military, a lot of us, grew up. I knew all kinds of kids who grew up. They loved army fatigues and bayonets and all that shit. From watching Rambo and all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, even those who weren't officially militarized like that, they were still militarized to a certain degree just through our media. Yeah, Crusader. Screw you, lady, and then pedal off, flipping her the bird. Yeah, dude, those were the days, man. I'm telling you. She had a glandular problem, huh, AF? That kind of shit's hilarious. Yeah, we used to do that all the time when I was in high school. Scratch your nose with your middle finger. Yeah. Yeah, crab man. Yeah, we knew so many veterans. Yeah, grandparents, parents, um, and we got to learn that. That a lot about it from there. We got militarized in a way from that. Just growing up in a household or in close proximity to veterans. So yeah. Pepper spray. Oh yeah, I do too, Crusader. I love playing soldier, even though I was a soldier. Yeah, that's the thing, 19. I know I can listen to an opposing view. It's just today there a lot of that stuff, a lot of opposing views or views, period, they're all based on feeling and emotion, you know? And so there's no kind of constructive conversation there. There's no resolution or a coming together or an understanding unless you can pretend to understand how that person feels. There's no, I mean, you can sit there and listen to them, and how they feel that, children should be and should have access to transgender care, gender affirming care or whatever. But that doesn't make it, there's no logical argument there for it. There's no real point. And that's just one example. But yeah, it's difficult now. They're making it more difficult to have a coherent conversation with them. Yeah. And I've tried. Listened to them thoroughly and tried to have a decent conversation with them. But some of them just make it impossible now. Oh yeah, that's one of the first things we learned, God's Warrior, was mama jokes. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody thinks you're homeless, crab man. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting me some summer weight BDUs. I hated wearing the winter weight ones, the thick, heavy ones. I don't know. I just didn't like them some bitches. Even during the winter, I didn't like to wear them. I just wore the summer weight as much as I could. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Raziel. Martial arts, if you're trained to respect guns as tools, you don't go around shooting people, and there's some kind of disconnect there with the young people now today. I don't know. There's something deeper wrong there, and I would love to know if it had to do with medication. I would love for them to be able to tell us. Well, they can, they just won't, because of the HIPAA thing, that insurance thing. They won't tell us what kind of medications these kids are on, or these people that do these kind of things. But I guarantee you that it has more to do with that than cartoon guns. Yeah, cameras for fashion, not just for hunting anymore, Rusty Doob. You're right. Yeah, yeah, you're right, Crusader. It is. That shit'll last a good long time. I never wore the desert BDUs. I only wore the forest, the forest BDUs. Yeah, an army jacket. They do make some good stuff. You know, they really do get that stuff from the what is that, the army depot or whatever. I forget what it's called now. Where they have all the army, they sell all the army stuff. They used to have them in, so those stores are probably gone away now. You got to order that shit online probably, but they got a lot of cool stuff there. We used to have the Gore-Tex boots and the Gore-Tex jackets, and that stuff kept you pretty damn warm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's mostly what they need. I agree, AF. They just need some discipline, and nobody wants to take the time to give it to them. Literally. And it's only going to get worse with the advent of AI. I was talking about that earlier, about we're going to have AI teddy bears that you just put in there with your kid, and let the teddy bear raise your kid. You know what I mean? So that kind of shit's coming, and people are so lazy and stupid that they're gonna, whoever comes out with that's gonna make a quadrillion dollars. You don't even have to, you don't have to see your kid unless it actually makes a mess in its pants, and then you get an alert on your phone. Hey, your kid just. Then you come in and you change your kid's diaper and you go back to what you were doing. So yeah, that's coming. You know it's coming. People are so lazy and ridiculous that that's coming. Yeah, that's my point, Raziel. When your brain is still developing, they have no idea what this stuff does to developing brains. They just don't. But they're handing it out. Army surplus, Metal Gear. Yeah, thank you. I had another brain cramp. Y'all know me by now. Yep, Army surplus, Crusader, Chaz. Yep. Yeah, an AI Teddy Ruxpin. Mac MC, what's up, dude? Yeah, you're right though. Yeah, like that movie Ted, Raziel. Yeah. Yep. And that's gonna be so dangerous when it comes, and I can almost guarantee it's coming. But you don't know what that thing is going to teach your children. You don't know how that thing is going to affect your child's mind with the things it tells it. So not knowing that is going to be, it's going to be dangerous for the children. You know what I mean? That's one thing that I see with the baby boomers a lot. They just don't give a shit. Literally, don't give a shit about the younger generations. They don't give two shits what happens, and that's kind of hard to watch. Just selling everything out and don't. Oh well, whatever. Destroy the housing market. Destroy everything, and I already got mine. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna vote. So I can get a little bit more before I die. Flecktarn. I've never heard of that. Germany always had the best stuff. Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to check into that. Yeah. Yeah, Trip. If Elmo says one wrong word, that's a fireplace for him. Hell yeah. Yeah, exactly, Raziel. They can't help themselves but come after kids, right? And I saw a thing the other day where somebody was saying on there that that being anti or what? How was it worded? Being hard on child sex crimes. Okay, being hard on child sex crimes was transphobic behavior. All right, so what universe do you live in where you think it's okay to make that statement? Where you think it's okay? That's where I'm going to stand my ground, is to protect trans people from the people who want to stop them from hurting children. Uh, I mean, it's mind-boggling to a sickening degree to even see that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. To teach Teddy Ruxpin how to dismantle landmines. Yeah, Crab Man. All right, Chaz. You heading to work? All right, dude. Yeah, be cool, buddy. Thank you for dropping by, man. I appreciate it. Okay, German camo Flecktarn. All right. No, I'm gonna have to look into that. I've never really. I mean, I've seen, I've seen videos of, Australian soldiers and German soldiers and Swedish soldiers and, like their elite forces and stuff and all that. I've always been fascinated with that stuff, but I never really paid too much attention to their camouflage and, what kind of stuff they wore and kind of technology they had and stuff. So, but I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I didn't know that Germans made the best. I honestly just thought that that Americans had the best kind of stuff, But then it makes perfect sense because we built the public for billions of dollars and then give the contract to the lowest bidder. Always. So when it comes to that kind of shit, you know what I mean? Oh, made to match the Black Forest in Germany? That's pretty cool. Jennifer Andrews. Hey, glad to see ya. Glad you can make it. Oh, okay. You had to work today? Yeah, that sucks. I don't know. Working on Sunday, it just sucks working on Sunday. Even if you get like Monday off or Wednesday off or whatever, it's still working on a Sunday sucks. I don't care. Even if you get 2 other days off during the week, you're supposed to be off on Sunday. Oh, okay. Woodland was what, G81 was it? What'd you say? Oh, M81. All right. Yeah, nobody in the military will buy military grade stuff. Yeah, yeah. Well, there are a couple of things being in there. There are a couple of items that we used on a regular basis that we knew were quality, and then the rest of it was you know not so quality, right? So I know what I would go to the Army surplus store to look for specifically. There are a few items that I would want, the bayonet to be one, and a couple other things. But the Army boots, even when I was in the Army, you did a lot better if you got boots, from a civilian footwear person or company rather, because our Army boots were just junk. They didn't last long. They were shitty, cheap. Vegas never sleeps. Yeah. All right, Jennifer. Yeah, you're right about that. I remember the last time I was in Vegas, we had a blast. Oh, okay. Well, they changed contractors. But when I was there in the early '90s, they weren't shit. The boots sucked. But they changed contractors, and so they might have good boots now. Yeah, I might have been at the end of a contract, and had the Army boots that at the very tail end of the contract, and as soon as I got out, they changed and got great boots. That's just how it goes. Yeah, that's a good place to go for camping equipment, Jennifer. Yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of their like cookware and stuff like that is great. Yeah. Yeah, never skimp on outdoor gear. Yeah. LBE. Yeah, that's another piece of equipment that I would say. Well, back when I was in the Army, back in the early '90s, that was a top-notch piece of equipment. The LBE and our rucksack. Okay, our rucksack was badass. You know, you'd throw it on there, and they've just lasted forever. You didn't have any problems with them. We didn't have them falling apart on us and shit. They were made to carry weight and just very durable. I wish I could get one of those from back in that day, but I doubt I'd be able to find one. Yeah, we had the M16A2. I don't know. Didn't they? Don't they have the M4 or something now? I'm not even too hip on what they're carrying now. I carried the M16A2 with an M203 underneath it, the grenade launcher, and that was a good enough weapon. But I would have rather had something else, you know. And besides the M16, it just felt kind of flimsy and shit. I've held hunting rifles that, you know, felt good in your hands and just felt like a solid piece of equipment. Although when you're road marching, you know, 20 miles in a day, you don't want a real heavy rifle. So there, you gotta take that into consideration too. But I would like to guess that the rifle they're carrying now is far superior. With the technology, it definitely should be. Now they still have Alice packs, Crabman. Okay. How's your flower doing, Jennifer? Are you asking me that? 1911. Okay. Yeah, the jungle boots, those were the boots I was talking about. And they had the jump boots and the other kind of boots. But oh, you out of here, Trip? I missed that. Trip was saying goodbye. Have a good one, Trip. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. I appreciate it, man. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, it did. Oh yeah. Yeah, the old school dial phone. Yeah, that's one of my favorite shirts actually. Yeah. Yeah, the M203, it wasn't a real comfortable thing, and it was heavy, but it was another thing that if I had been in action, I would have wanted it with me. You know what I'm saying? So so I could have launched a couple of rounds down range before they got close. But like I said, I never saw any action, so I never got to use it. Not in that way, you know. I went to the range with it and fired it at the range, but oh, okay, all right, Jennifer. The yeah, jungle boots. Yeah, I wore them, you know, for years in the Army. That's all I wore in the Army was the jungle boots. I didn't wear any of that other stuff. I just had jungle boots. But now, since then, you know, after I got out of the Army, I've just worn pretty much work boots since, you know, for as long as I can remember. Any other boots or shoes I have, they just last me forever because I don't wear them very much. I'll go through work boots, churn through work boots every year, but my other shoes that I wear, I'll keep. I have them for decades because I hardly put any wear and tear on them. Okay, desert camo and NATO boots in tan. All right, yeah. Yeah, I never wore any desert camo. I never went over there. I actually joined in '91. I went to basic training in the January of '91. I joined to serve in Desert Shield, which turned into Desert Storm. But while I was in basic training, they just carpet bombed the whole place for about 12 straight hours, and the whole situation was over, and everybody came back and shit, and it was all over before I ever even got out of basic training. Then they sent me to Korea for a year. Yeah, yeah. Going out shooting at the range at the age of 10. Yeah, I mean that I my dad taught me how to shoot at a young age. And then, I shot a lot in the Army, going to the range. We had to qualify every, 6 months was it or something? I forget. Every so many months we had to go to the range and qualify. And, oh, okay, Raziel. All right, after 9/11. Yeah, a lot of people did. I actually had, somebody got in the comments and said some shit to me, a boomer, I think it was. They actually claimed, now get this shit, they actually claimed that the boomers, okay, at least the boomers never allowed their kids to get drafted. That was their claim. Like there was a draft instituted, and the boomers stopped it. They said, you're not doing that to my kids. Okay, number one, we never needed a draft in our lifetimes. In the lifetime of Gen X, we never needed a draft. The one time that some shit happened, Gen X stood up and got in line to serve. They didn't need to draft us after 9/11. We were lined up around the block to go. All right? Gen X and millennials. The older millennials, whoever, the millennials that were old enough. So they didn't need to institute a draft and all that shit. And because we stood up and went off to serve our country in the desert, boomers want to claim some kind of victory over the man because they didn't allow a draft to happen. I mean, does anybody else think that is the most ridiculous thing a boomer could say? I mean, honestly, to try to get credit for something like that, they basically ignored their kids and neglected their kids their entire life, their entire childhood. Mine did anyway. I'm not going to talk for all of y'all. Some of y'all probably had very loving, caring parents, devoted parents. So don't think I'm talking bad about your parents if you had great ones. But I think, if not the majority, at least a decent percentage of Gen Xers were raised on our own. We raised ourselves. We didn't have loving, devoted parents cooking us dinner, coming home, every night and all that shit. And that's just that is the kind of shit that would come out of my parents' mouth. You know what I'm saying? I didn't raise you like that. Well, you didn't raise me. So where are we at now? You know what I'm saying? I know you didn't raise me like that because you didn't raise me. So, well, yeah, we're in an impasse. that kind of shit. Oh yeah, I know we didn't get drafted because there wasn't a draft. Because we stood up when the time came and they didn't need to draft anyone. You know what I'm saying? Just the I don't know. It's like they live in a different world, some of them. I'm telling you, it's like they're in another universe or some shit. Yeah. Yeah, Oliver Rust. Yeah. I mean, we grew up with guns. We grew up with guns on TV. We grew up with guns in the movies. We grew up watching First Blood and Rambo. Oh, look at all the shit Arnold Schwarzenegger blew up. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, we're okay. So it just tells me that the entertainment does not have that much of an effect, as much as they like to think, as much as they like to pretend it does, to where they have to what's that called, when, you know, just make a show of caring by protesting against, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, guns in movies and guns in cartoons and shit. It's just fake. It's that fake ass caring, that fake ass, you know, I'm gonna fake, you know, like I'm making some real changes in the world when I'm not doing anything for anyone, because everyone who grew up like that is just fine. They're just fine. They're well-adjusted adults. Still above ground, yeah. Yeah, Raziel. You couldn't tell him he was wrong. Yeah, that's cool though, man. Yep, above ground and retired early. Shit. Yeah, how could... That's pretty damn lucky. Actually, either lucky or you made some damn good decisions. Can't put it all on luck. Yeah. Yeah, he never became a psycho killer. My uncle didn't either. My uncle was in Vietnam. My father was served in Korea. Or, no, I don't think he actually went to Korea. My father was in the Air Force. I don't think he actually went to Korea, but he served during the Korean War. And they weren't psychopaths running around shooting people. They both believed in the Second Amendment and taught me how to handle guns safely, and nobody gave a shit if I watched a cartoon with a toy gun in it or whatever. I grew up with squirt guns and cap guns. Remember the old 6-shooter cap guns with that red roll of caps and that smell? Yeah, if I smelled that smell right now, I can remember that smell from all those years ago. I would know exactly what it was. Oh yeah, yeah, I bet, Lauren, having 4 boomer siblings, hell yeah. Oh shit, old man, yeah, our draft now would be catastrophic. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan Edward Gibson. Hey, what's up, Jonathan? Glad you could make it. Yeah, kids riding bikes, carrying their rifles for gun club. No big deal. That was just a common thing. You wouldn't even think about it back then. You wouldn't scratch your head and say, "What are those kids doing?" No, not even it. You could drive around with a gun rack and a gun in the back window of your pickup. No big deal. Nobody would throw a fit, and nobody run around shooting up schools or anything with any of those guns back then. So guns were a lot more accepted back then. They were a lot more prevalent. They were a lot more out in everybody's face, but there was a lot less senseless gun violence. I'm not going to say there was a lot less gun violence because I don't know. I haven't looked that up. But there was a lot less senseless gun violence. Just gun violence for the sake of gun violence. Now, of course, we still had the drug war and the gang wars and all that shit. So, yeah, a bunch of people still got shot. I'm not claiming that. But just senseless random acts of gun violence like we have today, it wasn't like that back then. But there was a lot more, guns were just part of the normal culture back then, and they're not now. So I don't think it was the guns' fault that all that shit happened. Yeah, I've heard that, Raziel, that they are really helpful with that. Yeah. I'm not going to give any medical advice or suggest anything, but yes. I've actually, I actually attribute a lot of my improvement in my mental health to that same thing. Yeah, exactly, Raziel. When that was just a normal thing to have a gun rack and drive around and nobody thought you were, some kind of psychopath or anything. Yeah, high school gun club every Friday. Yeah, Crusader. Yeah, exactly, Jonathan. Yeah, and that's the thing. They can never come up with a really decent answer. It's all just bullshit. You can't sit down because once you start bringing up stats and facts, then all their arguments are just blown away. The highest murder rates in the world, or in our country, in the United States, happen in the cities with the tightest gun control laws. That's a fact. Those are the most violent cities where law-abiding citizens aren't allowed to have guns. And criminals don't obey the law that say they're not allowed to have guns. So you have law-abiding citizens who obey the law and don't have guns, and then you have criminals who disobey the law and have guns, and then the criminals go and take whatever they want from the law-abiding citizens because they know they're defenseless. That is exactly what happens. We see it every day. It's just stats and facts, but people still want to argue that shit. Yeah, Arnis, we were taught real gun safety and respect for the weapon. Crusader, yeah, guns don't kill people, people kill people, yeah. Yeah, exactly, Crabman. That was just so common. That was so common to have a gun rack in the back window. Yeah. The only time you didn't have your gun in the rack was if you didn't want it to get stolen or something. You know what I mean? If you're going somewhere when it might get stolen. But I remember trucks parked in the high school parking lot with guns in the rack. Yeah, all the way up into the 90s, yep. Yeah, Crusader. Yeah, Oliver, yep. They do it. They're banning machetes over there in Australia because people are running around chopping each other with machetes, and then it'll be whatever, it'll be the next thing, and they'll want to ban the next thing. So, yeah, they'll just keep tightening down on everybody instead of what is the problem, right? So, it was guns. There are too many a lot of gun violence in Australia, so they took away the guns, right? So now it's machetes. So all these inanimate objects are the problem, they're saying. Okay? So that of course, just a little bit of thought tells you that that's bullshit. We're not living in that in that that old Mickey Mouse cartoon, when all the inanimate objects start floating around and doing damage and shit. So if it was the guns and now it's the machetes, then it must be neither one. There's another problem that needs to be solved, to where there is, to fix this violence. And it's not taking away the guns and then taking away the machetes and then taking away the pitchforks next, and then taking away everything until all you can carry around is one dull plastic spoon. You got to eat with that, or how far are they going to go with that? You can kill somebody with a frying pan, with just about anything. You can sharpen a stick and poke people with it. So, they can chase that forever. Just keep banning shit and banning shit and banning shit, and they'll always cater to a certain amount of the population who wants that thing banned, because they're too stupid to realize that it's not the thing. It's not the inanimate object. There's something deeper wrong. Yes, Jennifer Andrews, exactly. The breakdown of family and family values is the root of it. Yes. And again, we were the first generation to grow up in broken homes on a mass scale, right? The boomers grew up in the 50s, and that was back when families stayed together. People didn't get divorces like that. But we grew up in broken homes, and then it's only gotten worse. It's been destabilized even worse now with the economy and everything else. Now you don't even hear, it's not even a thing. It used to be people looked down on you and judged you for getting a divorce, right? You didn't get a divorce back in the 50s. That was unheard of. You don't do that. You stick it out. Now, there is absolutely no reason not to get a divorce. None. You get a divorce. That's the first option. You go straight nuclear. You got problems, skip everything and go straight to divorce. And I've seen it. All right, yeah, lack of personal responsibility. Yeah, Rusty. Yep. And there's no cohesive family unit to teach that responsibility. With all these broken homes, one parent by themselves do not have the time to devote to teaching good, solid values. They got to work. You're working 40, 50 hours a week, and then you're going to come home and deal with the kids and shit. No, just give the kids some Ritalin and put them in front of the Xbox. Yeah, you're right, Jennifer. That people are avoiding marriage now. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, everybody. Our 2 hours is up. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to Jennifer, God's Warrior, Old Man, Rusty Doob, Crabman, Raziel, Oliver Rust, Mike Fleisner, Laura Ann, Bucky, Dog Karma, Crusader Survivor. Who else we got here? All right, Arnis. Can't forget Arnis. All right, Tripwire. Tripwire's gone already, though. Did I say God's Warrior already? I know he added a lot to the conversation. Chaz was here. He's gone already. Rusty Doob. Mac MC. Old Man. So if I missed you, I apologize. But say goodbye. Oh, Mr. Hearst Zombie. Goodbye, Zombie. Goodbye to everybody today. Tomorrow, I don't know if you've seen my that little post I made with the schedule. But tomorrow will be a pre-recorded video, and then we'll have live streams again on Tuesday and Thursday, both morning and evening shows. Evening shows will be 7 p.m. Eastern time. Morning shows at 5 a.m. All right, both Tuesday and Thursday. Then the rest of the week will be pre-recorded videos. So kind of break it up a little bit and add a little mixture in there. We'll see how that goes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, shooting the shit, and talking about shit that matters, and talking about nostalgia and old memories. I appreciate it. I love this shit. I love doing these live streams with y'all. It means a lot to me that y'all show up. And so thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll leave you there with that. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X. And I'll see you on the next one.